Many people spend years searching for awakening, or peace, or purpose, or enlightenment. They read another book, attend another retreat, begin another practice, hoping that the next insight will finally complete something that has always felt just beyond reach. For a while, each discovery brings hope. There is a glimpse of clarity, a moment of stillness, a feeling that perhaps this is it. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the search begins again. Not because you haven't learned enough, not because you haven't tried hard enough, but because the search itself quietly assumes that what you are looking for exists somewhere other than where you are. The mind imagines awakening as an ascent, a movement toward a more enlightened version of yourself. It believes that one day you will finally become the person you were always meant to be. But what if that assumption is the very thing keeping the search alive? What if awakening is not becoming someone new? What if it is the gentle discovery that there was never anyone separate who needed to become anything at all? Perhaps what you have been searching for has never been waiting at the end of the path. Perhaps it has been quietly present beneath every step all along. Why the mind cannot understand awakening. The difficulty with awakening is not that it is hidden, it is that the mind is looking in the wrong direction. The mind understands progress, it understands improvement, it understands effort, achievement, and arrival. It assumes that every worthwhile journey leads to becoming something more than you are today. So when it encounters the possibility of awakening, it naturally treats it as another destination, another state to attain, another version of yourself to become. But awakening does not follow the logic of the mind. It does not add anything to you. It does not perfect you. It does not strengthen your identity. Instead, it quietly begins removing everything you have mistaken yourself to be. What falls away are not your abilities, your relationships, or your humanity. What dissolves are the borrowed identities you have accumulated over a lifetime, the beliefs about who you should be, the roles you learned to perform, the stories you inherited, and the imagined center around which your life has seemed to revolve. Awakening is not an act of acquisition. It is an act of surrender. It is the gradual recognition that nothing essential needs to be added because nothing essential has ever been missing. This is why awakening often feels confusing. The mind expects expansion through accumulation, but awakening reveals expansion through subtraction. Every layer that falls away uncovers something that was already present, something quieter, more spacious, and infinitely more natural than the self you spent years trying to improve. You do not become awareness. You remember that awareness has always been what you are. But there is another reason the search continues, even after profound insight. Many people glimpse this truth intellectually. They experience moments when the separate self seems to disappear. They understand the words. They recognize the concepts. Yet before long, the old sense of me quietly returns. Not because the realization was false, but because the body is still organized around separation. The personal self is not maintained by thought alone. It is maintained by the nervous system. It lives in the subtle contractions of the body, in the bracing against uncertainty, in the unconscious habits of protection that have been rehearsed for years. The mind may understand oneness in an instant, while the body continues responding as though it must survive as someone separate. This is one of the central themes of this book. Awakening is not complete when the mind understands reality. It becomes lived when the nervous system no longer needs to defend the illusion of separation. Then the search begins to lose its momentum, not because you have finally arrived somewhere new, but because the one who believed there was somewhere else to go quietly begins to disappear. Why awakening changes everything without trying to. When the illusion of separation begins to soften, nothing about ordinary life necessarily changes. You still wake up, you still work, you still love, you still create. The world looks much the same, and yet everything is experienced differently. This is because awakening is not primarily a change in circumstances. It is a change in the place from which life is lived. As long as identity remains at the center of experience, every part of life becomes personal. Relationships become places where the self seeks validation, protection, or completion. Work becomes proof of worth. Creativity becomes a performance. Success becomes something that must secure the future. Fear becomes evidence that something is wrong. Suffering becomes the story of what is happening to me. Even meaning becomes something we believe we must discover or construct before life can feel complete. The separate self turns every experience into a reference back to itself. Everything is interpreted through the question, what does this mean for me? This is why life can feel so heavy. Not because life itself is heavy, but because every moment is filtered through an identity that believes it must continually maintain and defend itself. But as the sense of separation begins to dissolve, something remarkable happens. Life no longer revolves around protecting a center that was never actually there. Action becomes natural because it is no longer driven by the need to become someone. Creativity becomes expression rather than performance. Relationships become participation rather than negotiation. Silence is no longer the absence of activity. It becomes a living intelligence from which words, choices, and actions naturally arise. Life becomes less personal, yet strangely it becomes far more intimate. You begin to discover one of awakening's deepest paradoxes. The quieter you become internally, the more powerfully life expresses itself through you. Not because you become more powerful, not because you gain extraordinary abilities, but because there is less distortion, less resistance, less fear, less self-reference. When the noise of constant becoming begins to settle, life no longer has to push through layers of defense before it can move. Expression becomes effortless. Presence becomes influential without trying to influence. Creation arises without needing recognition. Compassion appears without being manufactured. Life simply begins to flow as it always wanted to. This is why awakening is not withdrawal from the world. It is a fuller participation in it. But this participation is not created by adopting a new philosophy or believing a new idea. It is embodied. The mind may recognize that there is no separation. The nervous system must learn to stop living as though separation were still true. For years, perhaps decades, the body has organized itself around protection. It has held tension, guarded against uncertainty, and maintained the physiological posture of a separate self. Those patterns cannot simply be argued away. They soften only as the body learns that it no longer needs to brace against life itself. As the nervous system releases these deeply held contractions, awakening ceases to be an experience that comes and goes. It becomes the way life is lived. This is not about escaping the world. It is about finally participating in it without the burden of believing you were ever separate from it in the first place. This is where this book begins to differ from many conversations about awakening. Most teachings focus on changing thought. They ask you to understand more clearly, think more accurately, or see through the illusion of the separate self. Understanding is important, but this book asks a different question. Can the body stop organizing itself around separation? Because awakening is not completed when the mind sees the truth. It becomes stable when the nervous system no longer needs to defend against life. The body has spent years learning to contract. Every disappointment, every fear, every moment of overwhelm, every experience that felt too much to hold. Little by little, the nervous system learned to brace. What began as intelligent protection slowly became an unconscious way of living. Eventually, the contraction itself came to feel like me. This is why awakening is not simply the discovery that there is no separate self. It is the gradual release of everything the body has been doing to maintain that illusion. The movement is subtle, from contraction to openness, from bracing to receiving, from protection to participation. The body no longer meets life with anticipation of danger. It begins to meet each moment without demanding that it be different. As this happens, something remarkable begins to unfold. Breath deepens naturally. Tension softens without effort. Experience is no longer immediately divided into what should be welcomed and what should be resisted. Life is allowed to move. The body slowly becomes transparent, not invisible, but unobstructed. Awareness no longer has to push through layers of contraction before it can express itself. Presence moves freely because there is less resistance to its movement. Nothing new has been added. No higher state has been created. No spiritual identity has been achieved. What has changed is far simpler. The nervous system has stopped holding together an identity that was never truly there. Resistance quietly becomes unnecessary. And when there is nothing left to defend, awakening is no longer something you experience from time to time. It becomes the effortless way life experiences itself through you. Before we continue, there is something important to understand. This book is not asking you to believe anything. It is not asking you to adopt a new philosophy. It is not asking you to become someone different. And it is not asking you to reach a higher state of consciousness. If anything, it invites the opposite, to stop striving long enough to notice what has always been quietly present beneath the striving. As you move through these chapters, don't worry about understanding every idea. Instead, notice yourself. Notice where the body tightens. Notice where it softens. Notice where something feels strangely familiar, even before the mind can explain why. Allow yourself to read slowly, not to accumulate knowledge, but to discover what begins to reveal itself when there is no urgency to arrive anywhere. Some passages may feel immediately alive, others may seem distant or unclear. Let them be exactly as they are. Nothing here needs to be forced. Nothing here needs to be maintained. Perhaps you are not beginning a journey toward truth. Perhaps you are simply relaxing enough to notice what has always been here, what has never needed to be achieved, what has never been absent, what has been quietly waiting beneath every thought, every search, and every moment of becoming. So, before we begin, take one slow breath and allow yourself to arrive, not somewhere new, but here.